How do we find serenity in life? We're going to find out from the most unexpected place. Welcome back to the Perek Project, where in just a few minutes a week, we look at the timeless wisdom that's contained in Pirkei Avot in Ethics of the Father, and we learn these valuable insights that enhance our modern day lives. I'm Gila Ross with a Power Up podcast. We're going to discover a key to living an unflustered, serene life from one of the most unlikely places. The Mishnah talks about the difference between a learned, knowledgeable person and an unsophisticated person. Now, what would you say is the difference between the two? Interestingly enough, it's not that one has more knowledge than the other. There are 7 differences between them because one has developed their potential and one has not. It's nothing to do with how much knowledge, how much books that a person has read, what IQ a person has, but it depends on certain characters and social behaviors that the person has developed within themselves, which is promising because it means that we too, no matter where we are on that spectrum, can learn and develop those skills. So what are they? Firstly, someone who is knowledgeable, someone who is learned, let someone with greater wisdom speak first. It's how they learn. As well, if they see someone who's older, someone who has life experience, they're going to let them speak first. And they don't interrupt other people. Number one, because they don't want to confuse the other person's thought process, and it shows that we value what the other person has to say when we let them finish their thoughts. Now, interestingly enough, this is also brilliant advice when we're dealing with criticism. First, we should let the person vent. Don't interrupt, and then they don't answer impetuously. They listen carefully to understand what the person is saying. So often when we listen, we're listening to reply. And while the person is talking, we're so busy thinking about what we're going to answer that we don't actually listen to what they're saying. So a person who's knowledgeable, who's wise, who's sophisticated, they first let the other person talk and give time to answer. Once they have given the time to listen properly, they ask relevant questions and they respond appropriately. A person like that, their primary concern is to discover the truth, to learn the truth, not to push their agenda or to look good. So they will ask questions to find out more. And the person, they discuss first things first. If someone asks them a couple of questions, they will answer the question in the order that they were asked, because this shows that they have an organized mind, and it also, for us, it helps organize our mind. Interestingly, do you know who we learn this from? We learn this from God's conversation with Moses. When God told Moses that he wanted Moses to go and speak to Pharaoh and to ask him to let the Jewish people go, Pharaoh had a couple of questions. He said, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? And who am I that I should take the Jewish people out of Egypt? And God answered the first question first. Now, sometimes we have to answer in logical order, because sometimes when we answer, if a person's asked us a couple of questions and we answer in logical order, by answering the second question, we may already answer the first question. But this idea helps organize our mind and helps us answer things in the correct order. A knowledgeable person, when they're telling other people about their own ideas. They will say that it is their idea. They'll give people the choice to decide on their own whether they want to accept it or not. They're not going to make it out as though that it's based on sources or based on expert opinion or not. They will be honest and say, this is my idea. And it's a sensitivity that a person cultivates within themselves, and they're not embarrassed to say, I don't know, if they don't know. And lastly, such a person acknowledges the truth. Again, their pursuit of knowledge and of growth is more important to them than their ego. So they're not embarrassed to admit the truth. If they were wrong and someone points that out to them, they're not embarrassed to admit the truth, and they're able to accept constructive criticism, which is so key in order to being able to grow as a person. Now, while all this differentiates a knowledgeable person from an unsophisticated person, it's also the key of how to approach life as well, so that we can live a serene, calm, unflustered life. What is it? It's someone who doesn't get flustered by what God sends our way. They don't rush in to respond. They wait to see how things are going to play out, and they're able to accept what life has to throw at them and roll with the punches as well. So what differentiates a knowledgeable person is that they listen carefully, they think, and they respond, and they're open to hearing things. The same is true for us in our life, that if we are able to see what life throws at us, to think about it, to be open and respond appropriately, that is such a key to living a serene life. Thank you so much for spending your time and listening to this episode of the Power Up Podcast. I hope you found it beneficial. Please feel free to reach out. You can be in touch on Instagram. You can find me at Gila Ross. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe for future episodes. Thank you again for your time.